Alrighty, what exciting times we are currently sitting in. We have an announcement that's literally like 2.5 weeks away. And the park is doing a really intensive teasing campaign. And I'm going to go into detail about everything because there's a big factor that a lot of you are missing. And there's a lot of little key information that people are not looking at. And people are also kind of jumping to some major conclusions, but I can't hate on that because I used to do the same thing back during Yukon days, if anyone remembers the Giga. So it's really nice to watch how I've learned a lot over the years since Yukon and kind of applied it to this project. So we're going to go into details. I have a rendering, a prediction layout that should be out tomorrow or Monday the latest. So that's really exciting, but let's get into the teasers because I've heard a lot of different things, but I'm going to give you guys my concrete evidence into what I think. So why August 8th? Well, there's a very good reason. The reason is unknown, and I can't discuss it in full detail as I don't fully understand it myself right now, but there is a significant reason to August 8th. So on the 8th day of the 8th month, they're going to announce Project 2025. If you've also been paying really close attention, at 8 a.m. every day so far, I think it's going to remain that way, at 8 a.m. every day, they post a teaser. So 8 is a significant number to this project. Now, typically how Cedar Fair teases projects that I've learned is they don't reveal anything important in their teasers that is in relation to ride details. And if they do, it's not going to be something you're going to be able to figure out. So most of the time when Cedar Fair does teasers, it's to do with theme and essentially that in itself. But 8 is interesting because it seems like a ride detail. Could it be number of airtime moments, number of inversions, number of launches? By the way, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just stating, random things that the number could represent. So it's hard to figure out what this number could represent. But 8 is clearly important. So when they announce it, we'll have to see if there's any 8s. Or is 8 used because it's an infinity symbol or looks like an infinity symbol, and we'll get into detail about that very shortly. But the teasers have been leading to the 8/8, and they post at 8 a.m., so keep that in mind. Next, I want to discuss the pair of symbols that we've been seeing appear around the park and have caused a lot of the controversy in people's predictions on what Project 2025 is going to be. Well, I think it's pretty obvious now with the teaser that was posted today that it has something to do with ice and fire. And if you actually look at the symbols a little closer, they resemble diamonds, essentially, rocks and diamonds. They also resemble, if you look even closer, ice, the symbol of ice, and a symbol of fire. So it's definitely got something to do with ice and fire, the theme of the ride. And I also like that they're in duels. So we know that it's a dual launch coaster. And the teasing campaign is in pairs of 2, dual. So is it a dual load, a dual launch, 2 different stories? It could be any one of those. It could be all of them. And I'm going to discuss that a little later on. But let's touch on the 2 rides. So I'm seeing people kind of go, could this be 2 rides? Could this be a dueling coaster? And while I can't fully rule out a dueling coaster, I haven't seen any evidence with the footings that would suggest it is a dueling coaster. Now, it is hard to tell because we are only in the station area, and there is a lot of missing markings along the ride path. And there could be some that pop up that suggest it ends up being dueling. But I would suggest that it doesn't look to be dueling quite yet with the entrance in the mountain and the markings for the caissons and footings. I would also suggest that it's not 2 rides because the teasers say something big and legend. And we don't see any plurals in the teasers quite yet outside of the pair of symbols. But again, let's not overanalyze teasers, but that is rich coming from me during my Yukon era. I would say stick to theming when it comes to teasers. So that would be my advice. Stick to theming. Don't overanalyze. Numbers, if they do present numbers, it could be something along the lines of number of elements to a specific element, which is going to be impossible to figure out. But for now, from what I've been told about teasers, stick to theming. Stick to a storyline when it comes to teasers. So I don't think it's going to be 2 rides. I don't think there's going to be another ride over an Extreme Skyflyer, but who knows? I see evidence of the coaster path heading towards Extreme Skyflyer with the number of footings and support sequences, which we'll get on into a little later in this video. I do see evidence of this just being one major roller coaster, and so far no evidence of dueling. But who knows? Fingers crossed if you're hoping for a dueling coaster. Okay, so that brings us to the adventure and legend that Wonderland has been referencing in their teasers. So let's go over a little bit of the analysis of some of the teasers that have been posted so far. So we have a lot of rock work, we have a mountain theme, we have some volcanic ash, we have a mention of an adventure, we have a mention of a legend, and we have the reference to something big, and 2 storylines appear to be getting referenced in the teasers. Well, at least that's my takeaway. So let's touch on the theming so far. It seems to blend for the most part. I will say the girl they used in this teaser definitely looks a little more medieval than I would have expected for an area like Elpin. But then I thought about it, well, is Elpin staying? Could we see a different theme for the Elpin area? Could Wonderland be erasing the Elpin theme? I personally wouldn't like that, but I also could see why they might need to. Now, I looked up a lot of references to Elpin and dragons and all that, and it's really hard to blend those 2 things. So I would be really interested in the storyline that Wonderland is trying to come up with for an Elpin-themed area, if they are to keep Elpin. So it's again, when it comes to the theme, it's become pretty complex because, again, this coaster travels over 2 themed areas. You have World Expo and Elpin. And technically 3 if you incorporate the mountain. And you have them referencing kind of like fire and ice, volcanic ash, rock and mountain. And I haven't actually seen any reference to Elpin in the teasers outside of the something big fence guards that are on the fencing. The something big is in Old English, which is in reference to Germany/Elpin. So that's been the only thing that I could see linked back. Maybe I'm overlooking the outfit a little bit, and that is an older English style German outfit / Swiss, I don't know. But it looked a little medieval to me, especially with the lantern. But who knows? That could be an overanalysis. I would say definitely focus on the adventure. That's a toot to a lot of theming. The legend is in reference to probably some sort of beast, or the ride itself is the legend. Something big is in reference to this coaster is going to be big. And again, I'm going to touch on that very shortly on why I think that's a really important word. I definitely think the fire and ice could be 2 storylines. We saw that on Mystic Timbers, What's in the Shed. They have like 4 or 5 different storylines. Maybe there's 2 different storylines during the launch sequence. Will you get fire? Will you get ice? And then it launches you. That could be one of my takeaways. So that's kind of my analysis of the adventure/legend theming and the theming pieces that they've hinted to in the teasers. So let's get to the something big teaser, because this is important, okay? All right, let's look into the teasing that has been here since the beginning of construction in a way, the word big. So big has been used on the teasing kind of fencing guards. They've been referencing big again in responding to comments on social media. And I want to remind people that we're talking about Cedar Fair here. So when you see the word big being played around with, it's not something to ignore. I'm going to put on some Amusement Insider's shoes right now, some of the ones from the past, and I'm going to pre-talk about something that you're going to see me talk about in another video with proof, because there might be a small chance that I don't fully support, by the way, and you're going to see why in our recreation, of some sort of ride fact that Wonderland or Cedar Fair might have leaked themselves on somewhere. But I'll talk about that at a later time, probably a couple days from now. I'm just preparing the video with the evidence that I found. But I want to remind everyone that this coaster has around 170 sequences of supports. The engineers that work for the company that are making the prediction layout for the coaster have the coaster around 3,400 feet to 4,800 feet, depending on what it does inside the mountain, and obviously what it does over at Extreme Skyflyer. The rest of the ride is very easy to predict. Wonderland has pushed the envelope historically under Cedar Fair, so big means big, in reference to Behemoth, Yukon Striker, and Leviathan. They have always pushed the envelope in terms of longest, tallest, and fastest. With that being said, it is very hard to break launch coaster records. So keep that in mind. To break world records on a launch coaster, it is extremely hard. But there is one thing Premier is really good at that people are forgetting about. There's a specific element where they could break a world record on. And you're going to see that in our prediction layout. And there's a reason we put that in our prediction layout. And that's just because it'll be able to take a world record, and it's an element that Premier is really good at. So just wait and see. Premier allows the park to spend more on theming and going big without breaking the budget. So to go into a little more detail, Premier coasters are fairly cheap, at least compared to their competitors. So, for example, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to give a range because I forget the number off the top. Full Throttle costs anywhere between $6 and $10 million American. Okay, that's fairly cheap for what that park got at that time. Now, obviously, timing has changed. It's going to be a little more expensive, and where they're working is going to be more expensive, and that could be a big factor into why they've gone with Premier. Again, the construction costs of working inside the mountain. Working over Vortex's lift, hill, and drop, and underneath it and through it, hint, has definitely is going to lead to a higher construction cost. But that's definitely a contributing factor as to why they might have gone with Premier. It's also very local for a park like Canada's Wonderland in terms of being able to get replacement parts. If they need a new motor, if they need a new anything, it's as simple as calling up Premier out of Chicago and then them calling from Chicago to Utah to get these parts made for a park in North America. So very cheap on shipping and very easy to ship for Canada's Wonderland. So it's a very smart decision at the end of the day. And as much as people groan about Premier were pioneers back in the day with some really cool elements. And their launches are really good, and their track design is renowned. So definitely really excited about that, and I can just tell. I know Wonderland really well. For those of you that know me, I know Wonderland really well. And I'm telling you right now, I can't reveal conversations that I've obviously had, but I'm going to tell you this, okay? And hopefully I'm not crossing a line, but the park is extremely protective of this project. Very protective of this project and ensuring that no information gets out before its announcement day. I'm going to tell you this. Track isn't arriving until after the announcement. And after the announcement, or even the day of the announcement, or the day before the announcement, you could expect Track, because Track is being held off for this announcement for a reason. It's very obvious that they're trying to keep this a big secret. So much so that, it would feel wrong to leak anything at this point of significance. So I wouldn't expect Track shipments until after the announcement day. And yeah, there's a reason that Wonderland is being very protective of this project and using the term big and just everything about it, the plot of land it takes up, and the amount of teasing you see compared to other projects. So, guys, buckle up. This is a really exciting project, and just expect, honestly, like, I don't want to overhype anyone. I know there's going to be people that say overhype anyways, but I'm really excited. This is finally what we've all wanted. A really good teasing campaign, a good launch coaster, and theming. So I'm excited. I'm really happy, and I'm really excited to see what happens in Extreme Skyflyer. Okay? Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Stay tuned for my announcement tomorrow with the launch of our prediction layout. Have a good one, guys. Bye.